Hello, today I'm going to go over 9-2, adding and subtracting rational expressions. So there is no solving, we're just simplifying things, reducing things, adding and subtracting expressions. Okay, so different than multiplication and division, remember when we multiply or divide, it doesn't matter what the denominator is. Because when you multiply, you just go straight across. When you divide, you have to flip the second term or second thing that you're dividing by. But when we add and subtract, we need to have a common denominator. Now, when we have numbers, you usually find the least common denominator or the lowest multiple. Here with expressions, it still is the least common, and I'll show you how, because you don't want to make your denominator bigger or have higher powers than you really need. So adding and subtracting and multiplying, adding or subtracting, you have to find a common denominator. And usually, like if you have 1/2 plus 3/4, you just, oh, that's not a good one. 2/3, you just multiply them and you get 6, and then you get 3 times 1, 2 times 2, so you get 7/6. Same thing here. I didn't want to keep using fourths because that already has something in common with the 2, and that's what we're going to try to eliminate now. But we multiply b times d, and then this one would multiply by d, top and bottom, to get bd, and then multiply this one by b to get bd and c plus b. It's fine to leave your answers factored. If you want to multiply them, it's fine, but factored is fine. Okay, so let's simplify this one. Now, before we go over what they are doing, let me show you how to find the least common multiple. So we have two denominators. We're just focusing on the denominators. We have 4b, which is 2 times b, and we have 10, which is 2 times 5. So what do they have in common? They both have a 2. So I'm going to do this and write a 2. So I'm not going to write 4, I'm not going to do 2 and 2, but I'm going to just pull that 2 out once. Now what is left, I do have to multiply by each one of those things. Times 2b times 5. So altogether, I get 4 times 5, or 20b. Okay? Make sure if they already have something, you only count it once and then multiply the rest. So our common denominator is 20b. If we have 4b, we need to multiply by 5 to get 20b. And if we have 10, you need to multiply by 2b to get 20b. Now looking at what's there, 10 takes into account the 2 and 5, so you multiply by the 2b. 4b has this part, so you need to multiply by the 5. And there is your answer. So it's 35a plus 8c squared b, or b. It's alphabetical. You have to write your variables alphabetical, so b c squared. Okay, let's do the next one. Here, again, I'm going to cover it. So this one we have 9y, so it's 3 times y, because we want to get the factors, so we don't want to repeat factors, so I'm factoring it down. And 6 is 2 times 3z, so my z's have a line through it, my 2's do not. So what is common? They both have a 3, and then what's left is 3y and 2z, which is 3 times 3 is 9, times 2 is 18, and a y and a z. So 18yz is our common denominator on this one. So then here we have 9y, which is this part, we need a 2z. So you multiply by 2z, top and bottom. This one has 6z, So it needs a 3 and a y. So 2 and 3 times 2z is 6z, so you just only need the 3y. So then you get 4xz, 21y squared, and there's your answer. In class, I did some extra ones. I'll try to make some up here if I remember correctly. Okay, so let's say 2 over xy plus 7 over x. So what do they both have in common? They both have an x, so I'm only going to write it once because it's in both of them. And then this one has a y. So xy will be the common denominator. So this has the denominator, so I don't have to change anything. It's just 2, stays the same. But this has an x, I'm going to need a y, so you do 7 times y, and there's your answer. If you have a number that divides into the other number, kind of like our 9-1 when we were reducing, so I'll use the, let's see, we have 8 over 2ab squared minus 3 over 4b. Okay, so we have factors of 2a, b, and b. We have factors of 2 and 2 and b. So what do they both have in common? They both have 1, 2, and 1b. So then I have to also multiply by a, b, and another 2, which they're all out of order, but what that is 2 times 2 is 4. I have 1a and b squared. So this one, 2ab squared, 2ab squared, it's just missing the 2. So I have to multiply 8 times 2, I'll write it here, which is 16, minus, minus. This has 4b, so I have 2, 2, and a b. So this one is missing a and b, because that's 4b. So I have to do 3 times ab. And so that is negative 16 minus 3ab. That's your final answer. Okay. So now we're going to have polynomial denominators. Those are the ones that are just one term. These are binomials. You have to reduce it, factor it as much as you can. So this is subtraction, so let's just focus on the denominator. So on the denominator, this one, factors 2, x and x, multiplies to negative 15 and adds to 2 is 5 and 3. Well, it subtracts to 2, so 5 minus 3. There's the first one. The second one is 5x minus 3. I just factored this. Okay, so those are all my factors of my denominators. Now, we don't want to repeat, so this we're going to take once. Here it is, I'll write it here. And then you have to multiply by the 5 and the x plus 5. And so you get your LCD of being this. But remember, we don't want to square anything just because it's there twice. You just pull it out once, the factor out once. Now, looking at them, this one has these two, so it's just missing a 5 because it has the x minus 3. So I'm going to multiply this one by 5. This one has the x minus 3, but it's missing the x plus 5 and the 5. Oh no, it has a 5. It has a 5 right there. So you're just doing the x plus 5 because it has this and this. And there you go. Now this is long. You could keep it factored, but since these are both x, They multiply 10x plus 5 minus 7x minus 35. Remember, this is subtraction, so this becomes a minus and a minus. So then you combine like terms, you get 3x negative 30. Okay, let's do the check. We have 4x squared plus 1. That's that one. This one is a difference of squares. So the square root of x to the fourth is x squared plus 1, x squared minus 1. Out of all these, our denominator is going to have x squared plus 1 just once, because it's in these two, a 4, and then multiply by x squared minus 1. Now looking at this one has these two, so I need 3x times x squared minus 1. And this one has these two, so this one is just missing the 4. So I get minus 2x squared times 4. Now since they are x squared, well, this is x cubed. You can multiply them or you could leave it like that for me. You get 3x cubed minus 3x minus 8x squared over 4x squared plus 1, x squared minus 1. Remember, your variables should be alphabetical and highest power to lowest power. So these two should be in different orders. Okay, here's a word problem that does a rate. So a rate is division. The rate of some oil wells pump oil in thousands of barrels. Here it is. This is the rate. Let's simplify. So let's look at this denominator right here. This is already simple. This one, I can't factor 3 out of both of them. I can't factor an x because they don't both have an x. So this one's already factored as it is. So your common denominator is just going to be multiplying those two together. And then this one has this, so you have to multiply 20 times that. Plus, this one is missing the x, so you get 200x squared. They multiplied 260x squared plus 400 over that. I think you have a couple of problems on the assignment that something like that, you just multiply them together and then cross multiply for your numerators. Okay, now let's look at complex fractions. We remember complex fractions are like this, but now we're going to have polynomials, so we're going to have binomials in each. Let's look at this one. So focusing on the numerator, this is 1 over 1, so your LCD is just y. Focusing on the denominator of the denominator, so we focused on the denominator of the numerator and then the denominator of the denominator. So you have x and y. So since they're different, you're just going to multiply them together. Okay? So now let's simplify them. So the first one is over y. So this one is okay. This one is y over y. So you get, I'm going to write it here, y x plus y. There's your numerator. Your denominator, you need to cross multiply because you multiplied both, is xy. This one needs a y, so y squared. This one needs an x minus x. So there's your denominator. Now simplify. So simplify means we're going to divide these, so we have to flip the second one. So they write division and then they flip it right here. So right here you start to see there's nothing I could factor out there, but I could only cancel a y because everything else stays the same. So that is your final answer. They showed canceling and they actually rewrote a 1, even though I don't remember that with the other things they canceled. Okay, so now it's our turn. So we have this numerator, which has a 1 and an xy. So the numerator denominator is xy. I'm going to put num. The denominator has, this is 1 because it's not a fraction, so your denominator only has a y. So back to the numerator, this has xy, we need xy so that x doesn't change. Now 2, we need xy, it doesn't have either one, so you multiply by the 2. Now your denominator, the second one doesn't change because it's already over y, but you need to multiply this. Multiply 2x times y, which is y squared, minus 3. Nothing changes there because it already has y. Okay, now we're going to divide these. So remember, let's flip them. So we got xy, x minus 2xy. And then we're going to flip the second one, 2xy squared minus 3. Now y's cancel, but right here there's something common I could take out. This could become x1 minus 2y. So when I do that, my x's cancel, and all I have left is this in the numerator and this in the denominator, which is b. Okay. Here's another one. So you could find a common denominator, a multiple of all the denominators. So let's look at all the denominators. We have y, we have x, we have 2, and we have x. So we have these 4 things. X's repeat, so I'm just going to use x once and then 2 times y. So my common denominator for all of them, or multiple, is 2xy. So here we could multiply by 2xy and 2xy. What this is doing is getting rid of the denominator. For example, I'm going to jump over here and then jump back. If I have 3 over 2 plus 7 over 4 minus, I don't know, 2 over 3. Out of all of them, I have a 2, I have a 2, and a 2, which is the 4, and a 3. These 2's repeat, so I only have, they'll count as 1. So I get 4 times 3, which is 12. So if I multiply this whole thing by 12, that cancels, I get 6. You're just kind of, you're getting rid of the denominators at all, totally. 12 divided by 4 is 3. 3 times 7 is 21. 12 divided by 3 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. And you get this, which is a number. That's what they are doing here. So they are multiplying 2xy here, 2xy here, 2xy did this one, and 2xy did this one, which is all right here. So at this point right here, I will show you what cancels. So remember in the numerator, denominator, so this one cancels y, this one cancels the x. This one cancels the 2, and this one cancels the x. So you're left with 2x squared plus 4y over x squared y to y squared. The one in your assignment, you actually could cancel the whole denominator over itself. I'll show you an example of that in just a second. So let's do this one that same way. So this one has an a 2, and a b. So that's easy enough. We're going to multiply by 2ab. A, 2, and b. So I didn't give me room, or I didn't give myself room. So I multiplied that by 2ab, 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 and 2ab. The first one is just 2ab because it's 1 times that. This one, the a's cancel, so I get 2b cubed. This one, the 2's cancel, so I get a squared b. And this one, the b's cancel, so I get 2a squared. So 2ab, 2b cubed, it is this one. Okay, the last thing I was going to say is when you have the same denominator, say we have 2/3 divided by 1/3. That is 2/3 times 3/1. And you're left with just 2. If you have the same denominator in each, when they divide, they cancel, right? Because the same thing over itself cancels. So you just cancel the denominators and you have this as your numerator and this as your denominator. That's especially going to happen on number 18 because they have the same denominators. All right, so your assignment is 2 through 12 even. And then these 4. Let me know if you have questions. Thank you.